Hey, what's up everyone? Tim here from Everyday Tactical Vids, and today we're going to be talking about survival, bushcraft, and camping knives. And you may be familiar with the video I did on that same topic not too long ago, but in that video I didn't get to cover all the knives I wanted to talk about, and beyond that I've used some new knives since that video, so I wanted to report in and tell you about some of those knives. First one we're going to talk about here is the BK2 from K-Bar. 5 1/4 inches for your blade length, 10 5/8 from end to end. It does have those Zytel handles. 1095 is your steel. It is a 1/4 inch thick, and some people have joked around about this knife that is basically just like a sharpened pry bar. And I get that. This thing is definitely a large knife. If you have large hands, I find that this really fills my hand out nicely. I used this as one of my first real survival knives years ago, and I was cutting down a very small sapling to make a fishing pole out of, and in probably 3, 4, 5 strokes of this knife, it was through the tree. So this thing is definitely a larger knife and a heavier knife compared to some other options out there. The sheath does the job, but it's certainly nothing special, and it does have that ballistic nylon on the back that a lot of people just aren't a fan of. So if you get this knife, I do recommend thinking about getting an upgrade for your sheath. Last up, at the time of this video, the price point for this knife is going to be around $80. Now if you like the BK2 but you want something even bigger, maybe you want to check out the BK9. 9 1/4 inches for your blade, 14.75 from end to end. Does have those very similar handles and does have that similar coating, and it's also made out of 1095 for your steel. Now you may be able to tell that this one is brand new, doesn't have any use on it. That's because actually I was using my buddy Blaze's BK9, and I liked it so much that I actually purchased this one for myself. So he got his all redone, got a custom made sheath, stripped off the coating. He also put some new handles on it, so it was just a lot of fun to use and a very effective large survival knife. And so after testing his out for a while, I took the leap and got one for myself. Similarly to what I said about the BK2, I would upgrade the sheath if you buy a BK9. It's ballistic nylon, it's decent, it's going to do the job and carry your knife. It is MOLLE compatible, it does have a little pouch here on the front. But if you're going to spend, probably $90 or over $100 on the BK9, it's probably worth investing in a nice sheath as well. Next up, I want to talk to you about 2 knives from DPX Gear. This first one is the DPX Gear Heft 12 Chop. I just did a review on this recently. Probably did some of the most aggressive batoning I've ever done in my whole life, and this thing definitely stood up to the test. 18.62 inches from end to end. You do have a blade length of 12.52 inches. Black micarta handles. Very comfortable. This is definitely going to be an investment. It's going to run you over $400. But this thing is made for a very extreme use. It is Sleipner steel, and it's actually made by Lion Steel. They use a lot of Sleipner steel in their products, so DPX Gear connected with them to actually have them make this blade. It was a lot of fun to use, very ergonomic. The sheath is comfortable, it's basic. Again, you could upgrade a sheath like that if you wanted to, but that one actually I was impressed with enough that I would probably just keep it as is. Now if you want something smaller from DPX Gear, this is the Hest Fixed Blade, H-E-S-T. You have about a 3-inch blade and about 7.5 inches from end to end. You can get the blade in 1095, you can also get it in a tool steel. There's lots of different setups. You can get it with wood handles, you can get it with paracord wrap. Just a cool little knife. It does have the bottle opener there, it's got some wire strippers, it's got a wrench right there, kind of a pry at the end, a lanyard hole, and very comfortable in hand. Super ergonomic, and if you don't need a huge survival knife, you just want one that's going to do a lot of smaller tasks well, and is going to be quite easy and fun to use, this is definitely one I would encourage you to check out. Here's a look at your sheath system. You can get it with Kydex as well. This is the ballistic nylon one, MOLLE compatible on the back, and it has this little elastic here that you put the hook through, and then you close this over like so, and you're good to go. What we're looking at here is the Benchmade Arvensis. 6.44 inches of blade, 11.72 inches from end to end. 154 cm is your steel, and this is definitely a knife that I think falls into a bunch of different categories. Certainly a camping knife, a survival knife, and then also a combat knife, just the way it's actually built and put together. This is a Shane Seibert design. Does have that pretty aggressive pommel there on the end. And if you've seen the bushcraft knife, which I talked about in the last survival knives video I did, this has a similar look and feel as far as your handles with that tubing that goes through. And I did a review on this pretty recently, and I just liked it a lot. I would say it's got handles that are for someone who has medium moving toward large hands, but if you have smaller hands, I think this may be a little bit big for you, or if you have extra large hands, you probably want to get something like the BK2 or the BK9. Here's a look at your sheath system. It is made of Boltaron. On the back you can see we do have this clip to put it on a belt. It also comes with a clip if you want to put it on MOLLE. You can also get this knife with a black blade, and then you can also get it with serration, so you got 4 different options for how you have the actual blade set up. Your weight for the Arvensis is 11.74 ounces, and your price point is going to be around $180. Let's talk about a few different knives from Tops. This is the Brachimo. 9.4 ounces is your weight, 5.25 inches for your blade, and 10 inches from end to end. Your price point for this is going to be around $135. You can see we have those green canvas micarta handles. It does have the bow drill divot on both sides, and that very cool lanyard hole. I talked to Craig over at Tops about that. I said, you know, functionally, does it do anything special? He said, no, it's just really cool and unique, which I agree with that. $10.95 is your steel, and you can see on the blade it says Bushcraft Global, and if you go on the Bushcraft Global Trek, you will get one of these knives given to you. It's just part of the overall experience. I enjoyed using this knife when I reviewed it. It's comfortable in hand. It is a thin knife for something that's as strong as it is. I use this to baton, to carve, to do a lot of different things, and it just performed really well. This knife is actually being rolled into my bushcraft bag, so this is going to be the regular go-to for me when I head out into the woods just to do some bushcraft skills, wilderness skills, that type of thing. Here's a look at your sheath. It is Kydex. It does not come with a fire steel, just so you're aware of that. It does come with the standard Tops whistle, and it doesn't have the spring steel clip. It has this injection molded nylon clip, which when I first saw, I was like, is that thing going to be sturdy? But I've used it, and pretty aggressively, I would say, in some of my adventures in the woods, and this thing is held up really nicely. It does rotate, so you can set the knife up in a lot of different ways. This is the Brothers of Bushcraft knife from Tops, and before you think, oh yeah, I've seen that one before, this is a new version. This is 154 cm, so this is a stainless knife. All the same features of the original Bob, other than the fact that it's got a new type of steel. The original was $10.95, but enough people were interested in a stainless version, so they made this. 10.5 ounces is your weight, 4.75 inches for your blade, and 10 inches from end to end. Lots of different options for your handle. You can see I went with that black and red. They've got green, they've got brown, they've got just blue, a ton of different options. So depending on what you want, you can customize your new Bob in that way. You can see it has the Shango notch there on the bottom, made in the USA. It does come with a sheath, which I'll show you in one moment. This has kind of become a classic amongst people who are looking for kind of a crossover knife between bushcraft and survival, camping. This does a lot of things really well. The original one that I have is $10.95 with the brown handle and the tumble finish, and that is a great knife. And this one with the stainless, I just like this one quite a bit too. Tops makes great knives. I like a lot of their stuff. Very unique options from their company as well. Here's a look at your sheath. It is Kydex. It does come with the spring steel clip there that does rotate. It also comes with the whistle and then a magnesium and ferro rod all together. So yeah, if you like the Tops Bob, but you're saying, man, I wish they made that in stainless, well, now they do. I have to back up a little bit for this one. This is the Tops .230 machete. Your weight is just about 1.5 pounds total, and your end-to-end length is 22.5 with a 15.75 inch blade. You do have those gray linen micarta handles with those nice liners. You can see we got that nice gray coating on it, and then the cool thing is that they've actually purposely taken the tip off there so that it's not going to snap off. It's 0.13 inches thick, so you have some nice flex with this. And as I've been using this to do some chopping, you can see I got a little bit of dirt still there on the blade. Yeah, it gets into, you know, the wood that you're cutting, and then you can pop out those pieces just by the nature of how it's made. So you do get a smaller version of this if you go on the Bushcraft Global trip in addition to the Brachimo, but I really like this one a lot. Let me show you the sheath real quick because it does give you some interesting options as far as carrying gear. Here's your sheath for this machete, and you can see we've got 2 pockets for storing gear. Now what I do is I take that elastic and I run it underneath the clip there just so it stays nice and firmly in place. There is a loop on the back. I've got a little paracord there, so when I hang this up at the end of my use, it can hang up nicely on my gear wall. It does come with the whistle, and be careful when you're putting it in, because if you're too aggressive you can do what I did, which is actually poke a hole through the bottom of that sheath. That's not their fault, that's my fault. I just wasn't paying attention when I put the machete away. But this is a cool option if you want something that's kind of in the machete family but not hefty like a chopper. This could be a cool option, especially combined with the Brachimo. It's a nice system for being out in the woods. I want to talk through a couple options from Ontario Knife Company. This is the Blackbird SK5. As you can see, it definitely has that mirror finish. You can also get it in with a black coating as well. 154 cm is your steel, 8.4 ounces, 5 inches for the blade, 10 inches from end to end. If you like Creek Stewart, some people are really into him as a survival expert. I know this has been a go-to knife for him for a variety of years. Nice sharp spine, easy to throw, sparks off that with a fire steel. It is a full flat grind with that spear point, so some of those features are a bit unique compared to some other survival knives. Doesn't have a drop point. This has been a fun knife to use. I will tell you that, you know, when you're using it, when you have your thumb up on top there, you got to be careful because that spine is quite sharp. It's not going to probably cut your hand open, but it can irritate your hand after you use it for a while. This knife is lightweight. The sheath is very basic. I'll show you that in one moment, but this thing definitely gets the job done. I'm a big fan of the Ontario knife handles. Some people find them a bit too blocky, but for me, they're kind of chunky and then rounded at the right spot, so they fit my hand really nicely. And again, I've said this a lot of times, but I have large size hands, so if you have large size too, you might want to check out some items from Ontario Knife Company. Here's your sheath for the Blackbird SK5. Molle compatible. You can see there on the back, you can certainly run that on a belt. You can attach it to a pack. The clip was a little bit hard to get on when I first got the knife, which is good. It means it's going to be extra secure, and then you could certainly put a small Molle pouch, maybe like a magazine pouch on the front with some extra gear. Next up here we have the Ontario Knife Company Bushcraft knife. It's going to run you around $75, give or take. It is 5160 steel, 5-inch blade, about 10 inches from end to end. You do have a laminated hardwood for the handle. So if you like the style of the Blackbird, but you want something a little bit more traditional, a little smaller, this could be a good option for you. Nice sharp spine there to throw sparks off a fire steel. It is a drop point there, but it's got a tiny bit of like a clip, just a very, very small amount. There is a smaller knife than this, which is in this family, called the utility knife, and then we're going to also look at the woodsman as well. It comes with a nice DeSantis sheath, and to spend around 75 bucks for this knife and to get what you get, I'm pretty impressed. The handle on this knife is a little bit smaller than some of the other OKC knives I've used, but I do still find it comfortable. They also give you a paracord bracelet as well, so you're getting some paracord, a nice sheath, and a nice knife for around 75 bucks. So I think this is actually quite a good deal. Here's a look at the sheath from DeSantis, and I want to add 2 other things. One is I forgot to mention, it also comes with a fire steel as well, and you've got this little pocket in the front to store that. And actually the paracord bracelet I mentioned before, it looks like a bracelet to me, but they're officially calling it a lanyard. You could use it as a bracelet, you can use it as a lanyard, but again, just a bunch of extra bonus things thrown in for, I think, a very reasonable price for this knife. Now this one here I can't talk about from use because I just got it, but I want to at least let you know about it since it's in that family from Ontario Knife. We've got the utility, we've got the Bushcraft, and then this is the Woodsman. 9.5 inches for your blade, 5.5 for the handle. It is that 5160 steel. Again, it does come with the DeSantis sheath. It does come with the paracord lanyard / bracelet, and it also comes with the fire steel as well. I mean, this thing is definitely a larger knife. This is going to be falling into that survival knife and also a chopper category. Full flat grind there. It does have a 90-degree spine, and again, you want to be careful if you're choking up here and using the knife like so. It's not going to cut your hand, but it's probably going to be uncomfortable if you use it in that way too long. You do have that laminated hardwood as well. So if you're trying to build a system and you want maybe a small knife like that utility or the Bushcraft that has the same look and feel, you can have one of those and then this as your larger knife for chopping, batoning, and other heavier use tasks. Now of all the knives we're talking about in this video, this one may be the best value. So bang for the buck, this is a really good option, I think. The Steel Wheel Druid 200, you're looking at around $70. You have a TPE handle, which is about 5.5 inches, 6.1 inches for the length of your blade, so you're looking at just over 11.5 total from end to end, and about 9.3 ounces for your weight. So this thing is super comfortable to use. The TPE handle, you do have some seams on the back there. For me, that's not a make or break thing, but it's fun to use, easy to use, nice sharp spine. So I was actually, I don't know if you can see the dirt on that still, but I was using that to get some shavings off a piece of pine, and it worked just great. Nice blade. It is 9CR 13 MOV, which for some people they're like, oh, that's a Chinese steel. But if you treat it well, if you handle it well, in the production process, it can be a good steel. And again, for 70 bucks, I think you're getting quite a good knife. Let me show you the sheath as well, because I think that's another nice addition to this blade. Here's a look at your sheath. It is leather. You have that dangler there on the back. I believe this is made in Italy. You get that nice steel wheel logo on it. The knife sits nice and deep down in the sheath. You got some holes there, so if you want to run paracord through there, and then you got a drain hole on the bottom as well. I've got two other knives from Steel Wool I want to share with you. This is the Argonaut, 9.6 ounces for your weight, 6.3 inches for your blade, and 12 inches from end to end. This is AUS 8 steel, so it's a step up even from like a 9CR or something like that. And this thing is, again, like the Druid, very ergonomic. This definitely has an outdoor but also kind of a tactical look as well, with that clip point up at the top. This thing cuts well. Nice sheath, which I'll show you in one moment. Because of the sheath, you're going to probably understand why I say it has a little bit more of a tactical feel. But AUS 8 is a good steel. You're not paying a ton of money for it, but it's going to hold up well. And you got that full tang running all the way through. You do have a nice lanyard hole, and you've got this rubberized handle that's not over textured. You can definitely see there is some texture on it, but sometimes with rubber handles, they put so much texture on it that it beats my hand up. This one for me, just really, really comfortable. Just a cool looking knife from Steel Wool. Let's take a look at the sheath now. Here's a look at your sheath system. It is a heavy duty plastic. It's not a Kydex, but quite sturdy. And then you have ballistic nylon there on the back. You can see 2 snaps, and even with this unsnapped, when you have this, even though it doesn't click into place, I was shaking it pretty hard, pretty aggressively, upside down, and no movement. It's not going to fall out. It's not going to break. It's not going to come tumbling out, you know, when you're on the trail or something. So this gives you options, you know, to, if you want to strap it to a pack, you've got lots of attachment points there, and then certainly you can run your belt through that as well. So the Argonaut is definitely another option that if you're looking into survival and outdoor and camping knives, this is something you might want to consider. Last up here from Steel Wool, I want to talk to you about the Gecko 1533. 10.1 inches from end to end, 5.1 inches for your blade, and 7.4 ounces for your weight. Now, I've EDC'd one of their Gecko folding knives, and I enjoyed using that enough that I wanted to check out one of the fixed blades. This thing feather sticks like a beast. There are a couple different options as far as your handle color and your blade length as well, so make sure you order, you know, the one exactly that you're looking for, because they do give you a variety of options. This thing, you can see the handle, it does have this divot here, and then it kind of comes back to the next section. For some people, they want something that's just totally rounded or has no finger grooves or, you know, any kind of molding like that in any form. For me, my hand falls nicely when I'm actually using the knife. That's where my thumb falls. That spine, as you look at it, you can probably tell it looks pretty rounded. It does have a sharp enough edge just at the edge there to actually throw a fire steel. So you can still put your thumb up top like this and use it without beating your thumb up. But at the same time, you can use a fire steel to throw sparks. So that's a plus for that. Let me show you the sheath as well, because it's a nice looking sheath too. Here's a look at your sheath. It is leather. It's made in Italy. On the back is where you're going to run your belt through this loop right there. So you can run this vertically. You can run it horizontally, scout style. You do have the lanyard hole there with the exposed pommel. Your steel is N690CO, so that's going to be nice and corrosion resistant. So when you're out in the woods and it gets wet, you know, you want to clean it off eventually, but it's just going to hold up a little better than some other steels that might rust more quickly. So yeah, you know, the jimping, that's always a big question for me. That sunlight's coming through quite a bit now. The jimping is always a big deal for me, how aggressive it is or how not aggressive it is. And this is just about right for me. So my hand falls nicely. Again, large size hands, and this thing works for me. I'm going to talk about these knives really quickly, and then we'll give you some final thoughts and close out the video. Down on the end here, you can see an SE6. And there's probably some people thinking you're talking about survival knives in this video, but you haven't mentioned SE. Well, I've only used the SE Azula as far as, you know, my experience with their knives. It's quite limited. So I'm partnering up with Blade HQ to test out that knife, and we're going to be bringing a review to you very soon, so stay tuned for that. Next to the SE Azula, we have the fixed blade infantry knife. This is made by LA Police Gear, and you might look at it and say, hey, that looks like the LMF from Gerber. Well, apparently Gerber let their ownership of the design for the LMF run out, and so a bunch of companies have jumped on board to actually use that design. So it's very, very similar, some different features. The reason I bring it up is because it's only around $30 and you can get over LA Police Gear. So if you really like that style, but you don't want to spend the full amount on the LMF, you know, with some minor changes in the features, you could pick one of those up. The next one is the Schrade SCHF3N. And I just think that's kind of an unsung hero from Schrade. It's very budget friendly, but I've reviewed it and I really enjoyed using that one a lot. So if you like Schrade knives and you want to try something that not a lot of other people have talked about, definitely check out the 3N. These last two knives that you see out, and actually there's a small one in the sheath up there, these are made from Miller Brothers Blades. And I saw these guys at Blade Show and they had video of them hammering one of their knives into steel, and it basically cut steel. So I was like, okay, now I'm intrigued. So I grab one of their cards, talk with them a little bit, and just recently we've struck up a conversation again. These are custom made blades. These are going to run you from, you know, $250 up to well over $1,000. They make swords. I mean, they make just these big honking huge knives. So they sent me a bunch of them for review, which I'm going to test out, and then I'm actually going to be sending them back just because they are so expensive. But cool looking knives, overbuilt, really strong, very interesting steels that they use. And you can see they build entire systems here. I mean, there's a sheath system, lots of leather, kind of a medieval look and feel to how they set these things up. So stay tuned for a future review on a bunch of blades from Miller Brothers Blades. There you have it, a handful of knives to consider for survival, bushcraft, camping, and then just general outdoor use. Now, as is my standard policy, the knives basically fall into three categories. Either I've used them and I like them, and so I'm recommending them to you. I haven't used them a ton, but I've used them enough to start to get a feel, and then I can refer you to somebody else who I know and trust who has used them and said, yeah, these are good knives. Or I haven't used them at all and they're coming in future reviews. So all these knives are getting a thumbs up from Everyday Tactical Vids if I have used them, and if not, we're gonna find out, you know, in the future what we actually think about them. So thanks for checking out this video. Links to all the knives I've listed here are down in the description section, and as always, if you purchase the knife using the links I've included in the description section, you'll be supporting the Everyday Tactical Vids channel. Thanks as always for checking out the videos. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe to Everyday Tactical Vids. Just click that little red subscribe button there and become part of the Everyday Tactical Vids community so you can be up to date on the latest videos and also join in on the various discussions we have around different topics. A reminder, we're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Tumblr as well, and want to remind you to check back often because we're doing giveaways on a pretty regular basis, so I don't want you to miss out on opportunities to win some cool gear. All right, guys, thanks for watching the video. More videos coming soon. Take care.